Today it's my pleasure to introduce Driver Phuc Mai. He's works at Station 19 now, A shift. You and I, we were talking about a number of things, from what brought you to AFR to your work in the community, and I think that's what really, let me know you're somebody that we needed to sit down with and kind of explore. Like, I got to get to know this guy, because there's just a lot more to you than just a driver, paramedic, AFR, firefighter. There's a lot more to it. At what point does the idea of, I'm gonna go work and use this license? When did that?
I got my license right after I graduated paramedic school, and then started working for Albuquerque Ambulance.
But when did that become your plan? Like, because you told me before, like when I came to see you guys, and I'm trying to wow you, and everybody's like, "Yeah, we're not going to fire." When did that change?
Yeah, so at that time, I thought about it, did a lot of my research on AFR, and I was like, this might seem like something I want to do.
Well, what kind of research? Tell me about that.
You're looking through, talking, I think first and foremost is talking to the guys who actually works in this department and getting a personal, their own personal view on what the job is. They know more about the job than people who are looking from the outside, because those guys aren't working that job.
Right.
So I was like, that sounds like it fits my schedule. My sleep schedule has always been a little wonky, and then fire department, you're not even guaranteed to sleep sometimes. So I was like, this might fit the way I work and function.
So that seed was in there.
Yeah, the seed sort of got planted, and you just started thinking more and more about it.
More and more. And then at some point, you decide, I'm going to go for it.
Yeah.
So you go do your CPAT. Mm-hmm. That was pretty much your first step, right?
Yeah, so I took the first step. Also, one of my classmates who was in the academy with me, we didn't know we were both going into the fire department together. We didn't.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was a weird story. We were just talking about it at a party one day. It was like, yeah, I'm going to apply for fire. They're like, for fire? What fire? Me too. Let's do it together. Let's figure this out. Right. And then so we sort of talked to each other and started learning together as we were going through the whole process of the CPAT, the PAC tests, the written tests, and all that stuff, all the good stuff.
And at the time, did you go to your parents and say, this is what I'm going to do?
No, they didn't know that I was going to apply to the fire department until I got accepted into the department. And that's when I sort of came out and was like, hey, I got into the fire department. This is what I'm going to do with my career.
I get it. I totally get it, because maybe you didn't want anybody to try to talk you out of it, or
I didn't want them to talk me out of it. And also, at least with our culture and stuff like that, when you sort of don't have your life together or have the job that your parents want, it seems like you're a failure. So I sort of wanted to avoid that talk with my family until I figured out what I want, and also understand what being a paramedic, especially with fire, is. That way, because Vietnamese is a little bit hard to translate for myself, and then when I translate to my parents so that they can understand it, it makes it easier for them to accept my occupation.
Oh, I understand exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like the way you explain it to them makes it more clear.
Yeah, because they don't understand that when you call 911, who's the first one to show up if it's a critical call? It's fire's trying to be there first, if not ambulance.
Don't you think a lot of people still don't understand?
No.
Because I've been on calls where we show up and people are like, why is the fire department here?
Yeah.
She had a heart attack.
People don't understand that fire, especially AFR, people don't understand that we do both medical and fire. We do a lot of different things for the city that people don't understand.
Let's be honest, it's mostly medical, right?
Yeah.
80% plus medical. And then I'm Mr. Tangent, so I have another one. Did you have any exposure to fire EMS as a kid growing up or anything like that?
I did. My brother dislocated his arm. I broke my arm, and we called 911, thinking that we're going to die because I broke my wrist, or my brother's going to die because he dislocated his arm. When I was in high school, we were practicing pole vaulting, and one of the kids snapped their neck, landed on his neck. So we called 911, and fire department was there, sort of to get the ball rolling and stuff like that. So I started noticing and recognizing that whenever you do call 911, there's a reason why fire is there. And there's 2 different trucks with fire department.
Yeah, 2 different. Yeah, I was wondering, like, if you had any kind of, I don't know, exposure to it at all. When I think back as a kid, I don't think I did. It was as an adult that, I got exposed. So,
yeah.
All right. So you and your buddy decide we're going to pull the trigger, and you start getting ready. And, what were your expectations? Like, did you think it was going to be, I don't want to say easy?
No, I went in with that mentality that this is probably going to be the hardest thing I've ever done.
Okay, so you thought that right off the bat.
Yeah. But also I was looking forward for the fire department. That's I don't know if a lot of people does relate or they do. It's great, but I was part of football, part of team sports, track and football and all that, being with the boys, that camaraderie and the relationship you have with your teammates because you guys went through so many hardships together that built a connection that you guys could start looking at each other like brothers. Recognizing that and seeing that the fire department is like the same thing. APD is the same thing. All these different departments going through the military, you're going through thick and thin together.
There's a camaraderie built.
Yeah.
So you were kind of seeking that same camaraderie,
yeah,
kind of that same brotherhood, sisterhood
for work because all the different places I've worked didn't really have that type of camaraderie.
Yeah, man. I don't think I ever worked anywhere that was built like that or designed like that. These are my work associates.
Yeah.
But this is
my work family.
Yeah. It's a whole different deal, right? Sometimes weird. those lines can blur too, right?
Yeah, because a lot of people think that, you go to the office, you see somebody every day. It's like, oh, this is my work buddy and everything like that. But if I'm going to work and on my days off, I'm inviting guys from the fire station like, hey, come over, have some, go get some barbecue and we'll eat dinner or grab lunch and hang out together and stuff like that. I introduced them like, this is my brother versus my other jobs. I don't really know if I can do that.
Yeah. Well, you don't get that same kind of connection. So what I'm hearing is you thought it was going to be the hardest thing you ever did. So you started preparing for it because the first step here is a CPAP.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing you focused on that in the beginning. And were you working out, hitting the gym?
Yeah. So fortunately, with all the sports and everything in college, I tried to stay on top of my fitness, try to stay in shape and stuff like that for my sake. And then when I fell into the fire department, I was like, I should probably get in a lot more better shape than I am now. So I was trying to stay in the peak shape as I could, and then didn't realize that our department uses different muscles than the gym muscles. Like we're not doing 200-pound bench press at work. We're carrying a 200-pound patient outside a door. Yep. 2 different muscle group that I didn't realize that I was weak on.
Yeah, I think a lot of people find that out. So, all right, you get through the CPAT, clearly. I remember that day. And you did well. You moved on. You did well on the written exam. And then you went up to the interview. Mm-hmm. Now, we were talking a little bit off camera. Yeah. You told me that you don't think you did well.
I don't think I did well during that interview. I was stuttering a lot. I didn't know how to look at people in the eye.
Were you nervous?
I think so. Like when you're in a panel and you know that there's a chief in front of you, there's an instructor in front of you.
And the stakes are high.
Stakes are a lot higher. This is going to be your career. You're not as confident as you were when you're just talking to somebody one-on-one. Because I remember talking to you one-on-one, it was a lot easier to talk to you. But the second you were on that board, I was just like, my mind goes blank.
Well, I had to go into you're in the mode plus to be.
Yeah.
Part of the reason we do that, people think it's to intimidate the candidate, but really it's to try to make it as non-biased and standardized as possible so that each person is getting the same experience. Because if I'm interviewing you and I'm throwing you hints and facial expressions to kind of either encourage you to continue on or disapprove of a statement, that's not fair.
Yeah.
It's like I'm giving you the answers non-verbally, right?
Yeah, so now we're just going in blind and you don't know if you're doing good or bad.
Yeah, because I'm supposed to be stone-faced and very robotic. Yes, no, thank you. Right? And you're like, I thought I knew this guy. He was cool last
5 minutes
week.
ago.
5 minutes ago, he was cool. What happened? So you got to be able to turn it on. But you made it through it.
Yeah.
You get through what would you do differently for the interview process now if you like had to advise somebody how to get through it? What would you do different?
I think if the question arises, start mentioning all your certs that you have that makes you qualified. They were asking me questions about medical that I thought I knew the answer to.
Because you're unique now because you came in as a paramedic and probably out of every 50 applicants, maybe 2 are paramedics.
Yeah.
For us.
Yeah, so I guess like a lot of those guys don't know who's the paramedic or who's not the paramedic.
Well, the interview panel, they don't know your name or any of your qualifications to keep it fair.
Yeah, so I didn't know if they knew any of that. So my recommendation for if I was to do it again, I would mention like right away, I'm a paramedic. This is what I would do on scene. If I was on duty, if I was off duty, this is what I would do. Because they don't really clarify
when they give you a scenario.
If they give you a scenario, they don't clarify if you're a worker or if you're just a
Sometimes
bystander.
they do. I think we had like you and your partner or whatever.
Yeah.
And then what about like, do you think it's possible to prepare for the interview?
I think so. It takes a lot of practice. I think the weird thing is I was practicing a lot with some of my buddies or people from my youth group. A lot of my role models that I looked up to, we were practicing those interviews and it made me a little comfortable and everything. But when it finally came down to it, everything sort of just went out the window.
But you did take the time. Well, it's like that. Like nerves can do that to you, right?
Yeah.
Where all of a sudden your mind gets wiped, mouth gets dry, and
Don't
you
know
could
what you're
normally,
gonna say.
because you obviously don't have a problem expressing yourself, but I'm sure at that panel, right?
It's a different story.
It's a different story.
Weird.
You can't speak at all, but you made it through that, and you go on to the fire chief selection, and of course you get hired.
Yeah.
Right now you're going to start the fire academy. So this is when the real gets real.
Yeah. I think.
Because you had heard a lot.
Yes, I heard a lot.
Right? Because you work for our responding, our sister agency, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
Ambulance company. So we work side by side, but it is 2 different sides.
Yes.
Right.
One's transporting, one is on there first responding.
First responding. So, so you heard whatever you heard about the academy, and then you go to the urgent care. You're in that environment. What did you hear? Like, what did they tell you about our fire academy?
I was told like a lot of different things that the first week is going to be like hell week. It's going to be the hardest week of your life because they're trying to make you quit and all these different things. I was like, why is that? Why do they want to do that? But the more I started working this job, I started realizing that there's a reason for everything they do in the academy, which is ridiculous. But it's just exaggerated to a point where sort of like how when you work out and you train for a competition, right?
Yes.
Your workout's going to be significantly harder, but then when you actually do your event and competition, it's just for that one little bit.
Sure.
I think the academy is the same way. Everything is so exaggerated so that when you do come onto the field, you're not freaking out when there's a structure fire.
Because this is for 30 years, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting what you said about, they want to make you quit. No, what it is we're trying to see if you have quit in you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, everybody has a weak points or, moments where they need help. But it's relatively easy to distinguish between the two as opposed to just pure quit.
I think it's like having that grit.
Grit's important. And then sometimes, grit's important. And then sometimes you get through without even knowing how you got through. Like there is no word for it. You survived it. You didn't give up.
Forward,
right? And you made it through it. Mm-hmm. So you're like the rest of us. You heard all this stuff.
Yeah.
You were nervous as hell. Butterflies. You come in day one and boy.
I think even before day one, the orientation.
Well, we start like you ever heard that analogy about how do you boil a frog?
No, I don't think so.
You put him in tepid water and then you start to slowly increase the heat. Right, where he acclimates to it, and before you know it, he sat in that water the whole time and got boiled.
Huh.
So I'm letting you know some secrets. So that's how we look at the cadet program, especially from the beginning. It's not full flame right away.
Yeah,
we're turning it up, right? And that water's getting hot, but you know something's going on.
You just don't know what it is.
But you don't know what it is. And then by the time you start day one, oh yeah, you're in the fire.
Yeah. But I think there's a point in the academy where you don't realize that they shut off the fire, but you're still in academy mode.
There's no doubt about it, because by then we've trained your brain.
Yeah.
Which is the whole point, right? Say, because we're paramilitary, right? So some of the same techniques, right?
Same disciplines.
Yeah, same discipline that we use, because we know it's effective, because we're trying to ingrain certain responses and habits, right? And most of ours, just like the military, are connected and related to safety.
Yeah.
Right? Ultimately, this makes you more safe. So I'm going to hound you and pound you on attention to detail, because you're going to need that.
Yeah.
Right?
Because there's a lot of different things in the academy that saved our butts in the on the field, you know, the things like, oh, I do remember talking about this in the academy. It's just habits. It's muscle reflex.
Yeah, muscle memory.
Muscle memory. The little reflexes you have is like, oh, sir, yes, sir, ma'am, no, ma'am. All those different
Was
things.
that a shock for you when you came in, just in turn? Because some people freak out about what they call like the yelling, and was any of that like a shock to your system? Or
I think it was a
it?
little shock, but I expected it, because the way I saw it is I compared it to football. You know, your coaches are going to be yelling, screaming at you to get you to do the things you want to do. Yeah. Or I was also part of JROTC back in middle school and stuff like that. So saying sir, ma'am was relatively easy. So
you were accustomed to that part.
Yeah. Okay. And even in home life and stuff like that, my parents taught me to address to my elders, you know, hello ma'am, but in Vietnamese.
Sure.
You know, per their age group and everything like that. So growing up, it made it a little bit easier after being exposed to it. You know, you got to brush some dust
kind of
off.
that was somewhat already instilled in you.
Yeah.
Maybe built into the culture a little bit. And I came from a really conservative type family. So definitely, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, was something that I, grew up being taught. And yeah, respect your elders, like, very conservative. So that part wasn't difficult for me. So you go through the academy. You and I were talking, and you said that you valued that experience.
Yes. I think it's an unpopular opinion, but I did enjoy the academy. It reminded me of high school. It reminded me of going through all the terrible workouts and all the hardship that you go through. But at the end of the day, those were memories that you're going to cherish forever.
Because do you think it changes who you are as a person?
I think so. It makes you a little bit more grateful. Because when you go through the academy, how hard and all the ridiculous stuff that you do in the academy, you come back onto the field and you're a probationary pipeman. If you just went straight to probationary pipeman, you're going to think this is the worst thing ever. But after comparing that to the academy, it's not that bad. And then probationary still has its own difficulties. And then you go to, you finally promote and become firefighter first class. That's its own, like, wow, this makes me grateful that I already went through probation. I already went through the academy. So it gives you a sense of gratefulness in the job.
I'm glad you said that. Now, let's compare and contrast a little bit, because, all right, you got through the process, and then how does that compare to what you heard prior to getting in, about what you heard the academy would be, or what AFR is, as opposed to your own experience?
I think a lot of people sort of make things sound as worse than it really is if you sort of just take a step back. Is like, they're not trying to kill you. They're not trying to hurt you in any way. They're not trying to fire you. They're making you want to quit. I think there's a difference in that. Because if somebody wants to fire you.
I correct you again on that, because the way I see it, just having seen and just, I don't know, spending so much time with the instructors, and just our philosophy is, we're trying to identify if there's quit in you.
Yeah, see, so like other people think that they're trying to make you quit.
Because generally, that's not what happens. Usually, and guys that have been in the military will know this, by and large, we don't say, you're out of here.
Yeah.
That never
they don't do that.
happens. What happens is,
Sir,
can I talk to you for a minute? I don't think this is the right time for me, blah, blah, blah. That's usually what happens. And then what ends up more often than not, we try to talk the person out of it. That's always almost always the case is, because we know how difficult it is to get this far, right?
Yeah.
I just wrote something this morning that generally, only 35% of our applicants ever make it to become a finalist.
Yeah.
So it's competitive and it's difficult. The very fact that you're standing here is an achievement itself. And are you sure you want to walk away? And we make sure, just like we call like an informed decision for our patients, we want to make sure that the cadet is informed, like
what they're walking away from.
Yeah, and then also as a person to person, like, dude, you're going to wake up tomorrow and regret this. You're uncomfortable now and in pain. And so it's easy to say anything and agree to anything just for the pain to stop. Yeah. Because you're tired or whatever it is. But you're going to wake up tomorrow and you're going to know within yourself. Because I've quit on things in my life. Yeah. Only to regret it later. And to say, man, you could have went one more.
Yep.
Or it wasn't that bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I think that's where I meant by, like, they say that they're trying to make you quit. They want you to do this. They want you to do that. Whereas a lot of people don't really know what the academy sort of wants. Everything you do is wrong. And it's something that, like, I've learned that these guys are trying to find the best candidates for this job.
Yeah, maybe your experience is different because, what I've seen, I've told anybody that will listen, if you come here empty, then we can help you. But if you come here full of your own ideas and your plans, and if you think it will adjust to you, it will not adjust to you. You're either going to make the adjustment or you're going to find yourself in incurable discomfort, right? Yeah. And eventually you're going to find an exit as a result. But if you can humble yourself enough to learn, right, then all of a sudden you have that weird, like you said, unpopular experience where you're like, I think I like this. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, this is actually really cool. And I had the exact same moment where I had to go, like, check myself, like, are you okay? You like this? Like, telling myself, like, I'm having a good time. I'm learning and
I'm getting paid to learn.
I'm getting paid to learn, and they're requiring a level of accountability from myself that either I hadn't experienced in a long time or maybe never in my life, right? Yeah. And that's a powerful thing, right, for anybody. Yeah. But sometimes that journey is uncomfortable because it's going to peel back those layers.
You're going to see what your true self really is after those layers go all the way through.
Yeah, like who you truly are, what you're truly made of. And there may be, some things that are uncomfortable to say and to look at. Yeah. But if you stick through it and stick with it, when you came out, how did you feel?
I think there's a sense of relief. It's like, oh, I think the worst is over. And then the next thing you know, it's like you get complacent to where you were just at, and then you get out of that again. Like you get, the worst is over from the academy. Yeah, yeah. It's like, cool, sense of relief. And then you're in probation. And then you get complacent with that.
Well, so you hit the field, right?
Yeah.
But then that's a whole other deal because now it's like anything else when you're the new person. Yeah. You went through school, you got your shiny badge, you're ready to get it day one. And gung-ho. And then it don't take but an hour to realize, I don't know jack squat.
No. Yeah.
You get out there in the field like, okay, these are the professionals.
And I'm expected to be the professional.
Well, in your own mind.
As a rookie, yes. Right. Yeah. You didn't realize that.
Let's just be honest. Nobody on that truck is expecting you, right? They're expecting you to step up, volunteer, take the initiative, learn. That's really the expectation. Right? Yeah. They know you don't know.
But as a rookie, you don't expect that. You're thinking it's like everything's on me.
That's what they tell you in the academy.
Yeah.
Right? Like you got to know all this. They're expecting you're the freshest. So you should know all the latest tactics and this and that.
Updated SOGs.
Yes.
Updated guidelines.
See, bro,
I don't know
it's
anything.
Almost a 20-year difference. And they told me the same thing they told you. But it got my attention. Yeah. So you felt relieved. Now, once again, you came out in a different capacity because you were a paramedic.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an added expectation and probably some added responsibility that some may say is not even fair, because here you are new, but you have this advanced licensure, right?
Yeah. So it's like, all right, go for it. Figure it out.
Put you in positions of responsibility you may not have even been ready for.
Yeah. So I think I got fortunate with that. You know, they kept me off the rescue, and I sort of had my time on the engine for that year probation. So I got to experience that life before I'm right back on the rescue. So
well, before they called, and that's what it is. You have that license. Comes with some responsibility. So you spent your year in probation, and then at some point you tell your folks, tell your family, this is what I'm doing. And that while you're going through the academy, are you updating them? Like,
no. So when I got accepted into the academy, and then you got the whole process, your couple of weeks or months before you go into the actual academy, you know, shaving our heads and stuff like that. I was told my mom, and then, you know, let her shave my head, and sort of like a send off, you know.
That's cool.
They don't, a lot of people don't understand that our academy is here in the city and you get to go home every night.
Right.
They think that we're going to a different facility.
Boot camp?
Yeah, we're going to boot camp. We're going to be there for 20 weeks or something like that. So they didn't know that. So I was reassuring them, like, hey, I'm not going to boot camp. You just won't see me because I was living on my own at the time.
Okay.
So I was like, you're probably never going to see me.
I'll be busy.
I will be gone for the next year and a half.
Right.
So going through that whole process and just having that strict schedule kept me sane, pretty much, just knowing what to expect every day. So
I love the way you said that. I agree. At least you know what to expect, because there is a routine to it.
Mm-hmm. You just follow that routine, and it's sort of just...
So you were not updating them during this time?
No, I mean, once in a while, I'll give them phone calls like, hey, I'm still okay. We just got through this week. I wasn't telling them like, oh, we just got wrecked because I forgot to write my notes, you know, all those different things that...
Well, you weren't calling home and crying to complain.
No. It was just I didn't have time to, you know.
I see what you're saying.
You know, I'm going home, ironing my clothes, washing my clothes, and doing all this stuff and copying my notes. By the time I'm done with everything, it's 9, 10 in the evening, so I gotta go to bed.